Today, I'm going to show you how I expose Sony S-Log3 footage. I've been shooting S-Log3 on my Sony FX3 since I got it back in 2021, so I've gotten pretty comfortable with this log profile and I understand the limits. Now, if you're unfamiliar with log, it's just a desaturated flat color profile that gives you the most dynamic range and flexibility to color grade your image. I currently use Enhancer Pro to color grade my footage. It's a really cool film emulation plugin, and if you're interested in my color grading workflow, you can check out my tutorials and use my promo code Victor to get 10% off at the checkout. First, let's go over our settings. So we're gonna click the menu button, and I'm shooting on a Sony FX3. So to switch to S-Log3, I'm gonna go into main 2, click log off, make sure I'm on flexible ISO. Then my color gamut should be sgamut3.cine and S-Log3. If you don't have that option to switch to S-Log3, go down to exposure/color, go down to color/tone, select picture profile, and you can just go to PP11. Click right, and your gamma should be S-Log3 and color mode sgamut3.cine. Next, we're gonna go up to main 1, and where it says display LUT, just make sure display LUT is toggled on. And then where it says S-Log3, click that, and we're gonna switch to S709. Your raw footage will still be in S-Log3, but this is just a view assist that gives you an idea of what your footage will look like after you grade it, and it makes it easier to expose. And you're always gonna wanna make sure your base ISO is 800. On most Sony cameras in S-Log3, that will be the ISO that's gonna give you the best sensor performance when shooting in S-Log3. Next, we are gonna go down to where it says exposure, and under metering, we're gonna have metering mode set to multi. Then go down to zebra level, make sure you're in custom 1. Your settings will be lower limit and 95 plus. Basically what zebras do is show the parts of your image that are overexposed, and you won't be able to bring back those highlights in post-production. It's completely normal to see zebras on bright light sources like this lamp or the sun. Obviously the sun is always gonna have zebras on it, but you definitely don't wanna see them across your skyline or on your subject's face. So basically, if you're seeing zebras on parts of your image that you don't want to lose your highlight information, you can just drop the exposure a little bit. And in bright sunlight, you will need a variable ND filter to cut some of the light out. Now let's talk about the exposure meter, which is on the bottom of your display. You should see a plus or minus number right there. In most cases for shooting S-Log3, you want your exposure meter sitting around +1 to +1.7 EV depending on the situation. Anything with the plus sign means that your footage is slightly overexposed, and anything with the minus sign means your footage is underexposed. S-Log3 tends to like a lot of light, so that's why you can kind of lean towards a brighter image. If you underexpose it, say at something like -0.7, you'll have to boost your shadows in post, and this is gonna create more noise in the shadows after you color grade. And if your display is full of zebras and the light meter is flashing +2, you pretty much lost your highlight information, and even if you try to pull the highlights down and recover it, it's not gonna look good. So sticking to that +1 to +1.7 EV will usually give you enough room to boost up your shadows a little bit if you need and drop your highlights as well. Now there are some cases where your meter will be flashing +2 EV, but you won't see zebras on your display. And that's just because there might be one bright light source like the sun or a really powerful light. And in cases like those, it's fine if your meter is saying +2, as long as your subject is exposed the way you want. However, I treat this meter more as a guideline rather than a hard rule to never break. For example, say maybe your highlights are blown out in a bright window in the background, and you want that crunchy, contrasty look, and you're not really concerned what's in the background of the window, but you're more concerned about the subject itself. So in that case, your meter might say +2 EV, and this is a stylistic choice that you can even see in some movies where there are bright windows in the scene where their actual window light might be a little blown out, and this creates more darkness and contrast in the image, or it can even create this subtle glowing effect. Or maybe you're filming a silhouette where you need your subject to be underexposed because you want to create a sense of mystery, and every Sony sensor is a little different in terms of how far you can push your S-Log3 footage. So my best advice is just to go out and practice shooting S-Log3. Try overexposing, try underexposing. Just get familiar with S-Log3 and familiar with color grading it, so that way you get a better idea of what you can do with your camera and what your ideal exposure is. That's the workflow I've been using for years, and it's consistently given me great S-Log3 footage to work with. But anyways, I just want to say a huge thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.